All right. Welcome everybody to the Harbour Area Sub-Committee, Tuesday, 12th of August 2025. This move for the chair, an apology for Dr. Agnew at this stage. If we can find a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Mayor Kircher is joining us online by Zoom. And today I'll sort of acknowledge the committee members for the commitment they've put towards the Harbour 2020 plan over this triennium. The first paper is just recognise the achievements of the work that has happened in the area, and working, just waiting to see the diary. Some of those projects being the Penn Colony car park upgrade, red sheds maintenance, the marketplace zone upgrade, waterfront road footpath connections, the slipway upgrades, improvements at the Yacht and Powerboat Club, and review of moorings and completion of the Holmes Wharf upgrade project. So just thanks for everyone's time and commitment that they've put and contributed towards those things happening in the area, and it's going to be something that the community will be able to enjoy probably for the next 20 to 30 years. So it's always good to see the tangible things that have happened when you're sitting outside the chamber. Does anyone want to speak to that paper? Mr. Rendell?
Yeah, if I can, yes. Thank you. So the report has been put together to try to acknowledge the achievements of the Harbour Area Sub-Committee in ensuring that the program delivery in the Harbour area has continued. Although I can probably agree that at times we've been a little bit frustrated about the lack of progress on some specific projects, but I just thought it was important that we took some time to reflect and have a look at what we have achieved over the past 3 years, because there has been quite a significant sum of investment from the community, and in a lot of ways it has changed the amenity in that harbour area. It's also improved operations to no end. So, you know, whilst there is still more to do in the harbour area, I think it is important we take the time to consider what's already been achieved. The report as well provides in the back end an update on several projects that are yet to be completed, as well as an update on the expected costings and the timings for investment for those projects in accordance with the adopted long-term plan. Happy to hand over for you to discuss and ask any questions, but yeah.
Do we have any questions or comments on the floor? Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm not sure if is this the right time to talk about all the projects that have happened. And yep. So firstly, I had a bit of a think about this. This possibly could be our last meeting as a harbour committee. So I just wanted to really congratulate the council and council staff that have been working on the harbour area. I've been involved in some form or other of harbour committees for about the last over 15 years. So I've watched, and a lot of the officers and staff and perhaps some of the councillors won't realise just how much has been done from way back then, when there was the old rusty silos and all sorts of bits and pieces that were lying around. So it's been a big job for a lot of different people, a lot of community groups. My first involvement was with the Historic Places Trust and then with the Whitestone Civic Trust. And obviously the place has changed a lot. There's things that I want to bring up about the things that you've mentioned, Josh, about the gantry crane and the way bridge. I look back at those years I've talked about, and you know, at one stage, one of our previous mayors wanted to rip out the railway line that went right through to Holmes Wharf, and I fought against that because, you know, once it's gone, it's gone. But that same mayor instigated the reconstruction of the overhead bridge. So, you know, because that was sort of set for demolition, I think, from the railways. So, you know, what a asset to have there. Talking about that railway line formed the whole basis of the steampunk park and all that sort of thing. And it's the, you know, I wear my hat as the heritage rep here. So it's a layer of history that's remained. So removing some of these items, they never come back. So gantry crane. Even though it's a more modern structure, it's a layer of history of the shunting yards, the busy shunting yards that was there. It's not doing any harm sitting there. The health and safety factors or issues could be addressed by removing any access to climb up it. The scales are an interesting thing. They actually still work. With a little bit of work, we could have that looking very good. The Whitestone Civic Trust are prepared to help with that in a labour side of things. We've got a good restoration officer that works for us, so he would be very capable of doing the work there. And we would have, that's been suggested from Josh in his report about storyboards, which would once again illustrate that whole layer of history. What else was I going to say? With the big projects that are still yet to happen, I think I would like to see the Holmes Wharf project finished. I think it's something that has to happen, particularly with the lighting and the berth people that lease the berths that should be having power for their boats. But, long term with the buildings out there at the end, to have commercial tenants which would have a payback to the council. The nice to have finishing the car park would be a good thing to do. I don't believe that the access right through the car park to Waterfront Road is necessary. I don't think there's enough traffic through there to worry about that, and it would just cause congestion on that corner. What else was I going to say? That's pretty much it. But I think with my involvement over the last 35 years, what's happened to date has been outstanding. So well done to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I go to you, Mr. Coucher, this welcome Top Agnew. So I put an apology, but yep, no, that's right. I missed a step before as well. Just make, is there any declarations of interest? That being none, we can carry on. And Mr. Coucher.
I was like to reiterate some of those words. I've also been involved down there for very many years. Rock around the harbour, fixing the hole in the breakwater, all the area where the kids' bike park is now used to be open area, contaminated. It was covered up, grassed. Part of the projects with Alan McClay. And we gave a price to demolish Scott's building at one time. It was going to go completely. Now it's a thriving business. So there has been a lot of progress, and it's thanks to everybody involved, council, staff, contractors, people here. And it's just how we continue and how we get the best value for the money that we spend. Sometimes cost seems to run away a wee bit. If we keep a handle on that and perhaps use some of the local people, local groups. One of the projects could be that bridge sides. There's some carpentry groups around. There might be some other people that are very happy to help with that. Harry Andrews is on board for where it goes, and some concrete pads, and the rest of it's not that much. It shouldn't cost that much, but we just need to be aware. So thanks to everyone.
Okay. We're still reflecting on the first paper about the achievements of the committee over this triennium. Did you want to speak to any of the projects?
Yeah, obviously we're super excited about the car park being finished. It's making the area so much tidier, and also we've got, you'll notice, a lot going on at the moment with the refresh and the roof being done as well. So with the car park being completed and the rest of the building looking amazing, it's really lifted that space down there, which was essential. If we couldn't have done one without the other, so to have everything together being done, it's just been awesome. And that opposite the slipway there on Waterfront Road's making a huge difference too, because that road was always turning into a massive issue with it not just being a pothole, but yeah, you could lose your car into it some days. It was quite bad. So that's made a huge difference down in that space too. So no, it's all looking really good.
I'd just like to say, with slip, I know at the time it would seemed a bit controversial, but as a slip operator, I'd just like to report that it's been really successful. We've had a lot of out-of-town boats come in, and they're talking about coming back. They really like our facility and how we look after them in Oamaru. And you know, those people that come in, it's not just the fee for the slip; it's they stay, they eat, they buy paint, they buy things for their vessels. So that's a real positive project that we completed.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Does that sound coming through all right?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good as gold. As we're all given our pedigrees, as the inaugural chair of the original Harbour Committee, which probably celebrated its 21st birthday in one iteration or the other last year, it's really good seeing just how much change has happened over the period of time. And it's been significant, and there's been so many people that have contributed to that. So really good to have this update as to what's happened over this current term. Just to recap on that, just acknowledge some of the ones who haven't been mentioned, in particular Josh Rendell for his leadership on the officer side of getting on and making things happen. Grant Rhodes, the role he played in that as well over this past term. So thank you to those, because these things wouldn't happen if they weren't there to deliver them. On the wish list side of things, and I would really like us to be considering the completion of the car park on the railway land. More than ever, council's got to find alternative funding sources, and there's an opportunity there, I think, to get that completed, to clearly identify the 2 or 3 plots of land that would be available for development into the future that would help provide some significant funding for council. The sooner that area is delineated and identified, the sooner we can actually do something with that, the more ready it will be. So if you'd be happy to take a motion, Mr. Chair, what I'd be looking at would be requesting that the council consider this the earliest possible opportunity to fund the stage 2 of that car park. Funding it with any identified better off funding as first call. I'm sure it's something that the government would approve alternative use for. Alternatively to that, we've got a reasonable amount in the Harbour Endowment Fund, and it could pay for that with the benefit of having it repaid through the sale of some of that, or sale or leasing, whatever it might be, of some of that developable land around that car park. So, Mr. Chair, would you entertain a motion on that?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'm happy to move that Harbour Area Sub-Committee recommends to council that at the soonest opportunity, it considers the stage 2 development of the railway car park with a view to identify saleable land. And second to that would be that the projects utilise any better off funding that might be available, or the Harbour Endowment Fund.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that?
Can I just ask a question? Gary, so does that include the road that comes from the car park? What's the scope of stage 2? Because I know in the document it's got another $87,000 for the road off that car park.
I think it's probably for the council to determine ultimately. There is a need to have the through road through the waterfront road, just for the trucks that go in and out, particularly to Scott's back loading area. So we have to be mindful of that. But I think it's something that could be, a report could go to council that allows the detail to be determined, and whether there's a reference back to this subcommittee or if it's the next term, that subcommittee, should it exist.
I just had a quick question from Philippa.
Yeah, just a quick question about how this how we balance the two projects, because we've got this Homes Wharf Services project on the table as well. So I'm just not sure if it's a one or the other type situation. Like, where does the funding come for the Homes Wharf Services? Because to my mind, that's equally, if not slightly more important than finishing the car park, because the potential there not only is described with the safety aspect, the boaties, and then you've got the potential for the rent of that building at the end of the wharf. Yeah, just like to know that.
Just in regards to the Homes Wharf Services, there is no budget in the long-term plan currently at all for that. Whereas the stage 2, I think there's still currently 542 set aside or something in that budget. So what we discussed today will have to go back to council to get to establish a budget for that first.
Just if I could speak to Dr. Agnew's questions, I think there are some immediate concerns and issues, and I think that some of those could be dealt with relatively in a straightforward and more cost-effective way. You know, if lighting for fishermen and so on is needed, just putting in some LED spotlights that are, you know, either solar powered with a battery there, that type of thing could be the solution, just to give them enough lighting for what they need. It doesn't deliver the long-term need for power through to the buildings there, but it would be one way to address that particular thing. And happy to hear from Josh if he had any thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. I think that's probably a possibility. I'd have to investigate whether we could put some street lighting in that would sustain that, and what kind of a size batteries it would be, and so on and so forth, to get an understanding of the investment that would be required. At this stage, it would then need to come back for approval for investment, just because there isn't currently funding set aside for investment in new infrastructure, essentially.
What we might do, we've got a motion on the table, so rather than jumping from both topics, we might deal with your recommendation first, Mayor Kircher, and then we'll go back and give it some proper scrutiny of the project. Mr. Coucher.
I'm happy to support the car park, but I also want to put equal emphasis on the power to the wharf for safety reasons. So given the funding's available or potentially available, I'll support that motion, but I would also like to think that we'll make some progress on the lighting one way or another.
Okay, so you're happy to second that? Okay, so for the recommendation, everyone's clear what it is?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, if you want to read it out, Arlene. Thank you.
The recommendation is that the Harbour Area Sub-Committee recommends to Council that at the soonest opportunity it considers the Stage 2 development of the railway car park with a view to identifying saleable land, and that the project utilises better off funding or harbour endowment funding for that purpose.
Thank you. So, yeah. Yes, thanks.
So getting back to my little items of heritage interest, where does that leave with the parcels of land you're talking about? Where does it leave those? Are they still would remain?
Just speaking to that, that's a wee bit of the devil in the detail aspect, I think, that needs to be confirmed later on. I'm for my personal opinion, I'd want to see the scales stay where they are, and the car park can easily be formed around that. For the gantry crane, I'm less concerned about that, but having said that, it's standing over a piece of existing railway line, and again, it's about making sure that we do preserve what we can of the earlier railway lines, knowing that they have been modified and changed over time anyway. But those things tell an important story. So if they can stay there, that would be my preference.
Do we have any other questions or positions for Rebecca?
I guess I just want to echo some of the comments that Dr. Agnew made earlier. I don't know. I'm slightly uncomfortable making a recommendation from the Harbour Committee without sort of, I guess, all of the information in front of us on this, with considerations, I guess, also that have just been raised. And yeah, I think we need to have more of a discussion on better off funding overall, rather than, I guess, making a recommendation specifically on this just yet. I don't know if I can support it just at this stage.
Yep. That's right. I think in the moment, did it say better off funding or harbour endowment? Looking at both, so exploring both ways, but so that will come to council with the paper. Are there any other speakers? So I'll just put the motion to all those in favour. Against? Okay, so that's, sorry, lost Mayor Kircher. Or there, did you hear good enough there?
Would you like me to record the votes for and against, or just say that the motion was lost?
Quite, it was 4-2, was it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I could do it one more time just to see a show of hands. 4. So 4, 1, 2, and then against. 5. Yeah, sorry, let's say it lost. Okay, so we'll move back on to the other item of Homes Wharf Services and take questions for this one.
I'd just like to talk about the lighting. It's quite a big deal. I met the harbour master down on the end of the wharf and we talked about it. The local fishermen have expressed concerns about coming around the corner of the mole with no lighting. Originally, there was a big light up on there that lit up all the rocks around there. And so that's more of a navigation problem, probably. But there are concerns over that. And the other thing that worries me a bit about solar is, can we guarantee they're going to run all night? We've got public walking down there and not all the planks are the same height. So you could easily trip. It's not just the guys that are going fishing that can't see to climb down the ladders. It's actually the whole area is open to the public 24 hours a day. And I think we should be putting lighting on for them. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Rendo, Rebecca?
I was just interested, the harbour master obviously raising concerns regarding the lack of area lighting. Like, what are the risks there at this stage?
The broad concerns that the harbour master had were around public use of the wharf, particularly at night times. Issues of vehicles coming in and out of the harbour, particularly at night, and not being able to see where the rocks were. So some channel concerns in terms of a lack of lighting. And then third hand was the concerns around fishermen, particularly loading and unloading in the dark. Yeah.
So I'll just take a question from Mr. Cook for you, if that's right.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask Dr. Agnew if there was any concerns from her around lights being on at night for the wildlife in the area.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was just about to speak to. Yeah. So You can just choose seabird friendly, I suppose you could call it, colour of the light. So we use lights that are in the orange range of the light spectrum because seabirds don't see that colour so well. Yeah, so just using orange instead of white light would be fine.
Councillor Blackler.
Thank you. Just on the list of do minimum, do more, do maximum, under the do more, it talks about the do minimum option plus enabling the Holmes Wharf sheds to be serviced. Have we done any assessment on what sort of rental yield we could likely attract? Even if we might have a ballpark figure for, you know, what we feel we might be able to achieve there?
At this stage, my understanding is no, we haven't done any assessment on what we might expect from a rental return.
Would it be possible to come back to us, to the committee with, you know, some detail around what, you know, what's required with the sheds themselves? I think, I assume this means that all services under the 288 option would mean that they were all serviceable as such, but then there'd probably be further work required in the sheds themselves. So it'd be interesting to see what investment was required there and what the anticipated yield would be.
Just to comment on that, yes, I think depending on the type of business that would want to come into the area, it would probably change your investment profile as well as your rental return. So it might be one of those situations where you'd go out to the market and see what interest there is before you then look at what investment you might need to make and what the potential return would be. I think doing an assessment at the moment to say what investment would be required to get the buildings up to a lease standard, they'd be very, very different standards for something like a retail establishment versus say like a food establishment or a restaurant. So without understanding what the market actually wants or is willing to put in place there, it's very hard to understand what the investment profile might be, which is why we're kind of limiting it at this stage to just infrastructure that might be necessary for a business to be able to operate from that site, and then allowing the businesses themselves to look at the sheds and understand the investment they would require for their business needs to be able to tenant those. So that's kind of the approach to date. If you'd like us to shift that, we probably want to run an expressions of interest process first to see what market players there might be, and then we can come up with an investment plan from there. Yeah, not as simple as just coming up with this is what we think we might need to tenant it, because businesses have different needs.
Yeah. I'll just go Councillor Ryan, then Kevin Red.
Oh, you kind of addressed it at the end, I guess, and it would need to go through the official expressions of interest process. But I guess from community conversations, like I am aware of that there is interest in the community. Has council been directly approached by anyone?
The response to that question was no, sorry.
So Josh, just a question for you. If we do the minimum, we're not hindering the project. If further down the track, we do have someone who's interested in the building. It's just, the reason I'm saying that is I'd hate that we did nothing, waiting to see if we could get someone to go in that building. But if we can do the minimum and the services are there for future development for the sheds, then I think we should proceed with that.
Okay. Oh, sorry, do you want to respond to that? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, the do minimum option, that is essentially to install high voltage power supply as well as street lighting to Holmes Wharf, and then have ducting in place for future services to be connected, which you wouldn't put the connections in until you knew that it was going to be tenanted and those services would actually be used. That's the differentiation between the more option, where we actually put the services in place, so it is ready to be tenanted.
And that was my question as well, that next step on that. Would doing the minimum allow the potential to future-proof for if there was a fund or something that the do maximum could be done in the future, so you'd be able to cover off you know, that potential for that to happen going forward?
Yes. Tried to put this together so it was a staged investment. So we could do the basics at the moment, putting in street lighting and power only for street lighting, as well as put the ducts in place for services in the future. And then if council so chose later on to invest further, it could increase its investment and be able to use those sheds more effectively and provide power to the berthages, which currently isn't there.
Mr. Coucher.
I think the potential use of those buildings could be 1 year away or decades away. You have fishing boats that are tied up there and would use power tomorrow, probably, if it's on. So maybe we look at what the use is, when, and if they wish to have power to their boat, then they might contribute to the cost of putting a connection in there. The estimate for doing that seemed to be very expensive for me. It was about 12 or 13,000 per connection, which doesn't quite add up. But that should be something that's considered before power of the sheds, and we could do that later. If you've got a transformer out there, then it's not hard to connect power at any stage.
Mr. Rendo, would you be able to comment on the price jump from the do more to the do the maximum? Because I thought the do more looks like it would be most of the bulk of the work, but then it's quite a significant jump to get those connections across.
If possible, I'll just reference some material within my emails. If you guys can continue conversations while I pull that out.
Yeah, no. Did you want to say something, Rebecca? Okay, yeah. Mr. Cook.
I think we do need to be mindful that there's currently no budget set aside for any of this work in the current long-term plan. So any sort of recommendation that you make today still has to go to council for council to decide whether they're going to redistribute existing budgets or how they intend to fund it if indeed the full council want to proceed. I think you know, the safety aspects are all very real, and we do need to consider that. But at the same time, everything costs money, and if we've got no money allocated to it, then I've got no way of getting officers to do the work.
Yeah, Councillor Ryan, then Dr. Agnew.
Well, I guess just on that point, with the resource consent valid for 5 years, I guess what's the latest that can we address this in the next long-term plan? Like, you know, money doesn't come, you know, we need to find the money somewhere, but if we go ahead with it, but when would we have to make a decision so we can still achieve something within while that resource consent is still?
Do you want
Yes, yep. So the resource consent will be in place for 5 years. So providing there is some level of investment over that 5-year period to enable us to do the work, then that would be sufficient. It isn't currently planned at all within the long-term plan, but the long-term plan, we will need to revisit it in 2 years. So there is something that could come back in then, and then you could still deal with it within the first 3 years of that long-term plan. So it'd still be within the time frame. It wouldn't resolve the concerns around lighting, but yes. With respect to the question on the price differences, so the do minimum, do more options at the moment just allow for high voltage line to streetlights. From there, it would then be, so then the maximum option allows for low voltage installation to the buildings, new switchboards, metering, etc. Yeah, so there's quite a big step change there, obviously, in terms of cost. I don't have the detail on why the significant step change, unfortunately. I'd suggest it's probably down to, actually, would you have some commentary on it?
Right, we'll take a question from Dr. Agnew and then Kevin.
My question was really out of ignorance of what the Harbour Endowment Fund covers and is for, and can it be used for some projects and not others? And it's just, just a bit of clarity around that would be amazing.
Unfortunately, I have only very limited knowledge of the Harbour Endowment Fund from talking to a colleague before the meeting. They indicated that actually the Harbour Endowment Fund may not have quite as much money in as everybody thinks, but they weren't able to give me a figure. But also the money, the understanding that they gave me was that the money needs to be used to generate income, and that any project that it goes to would need to have an income generating capability. That is the very brief understanding that I received literally half an hour before the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, that was what I was going to ask, Philippa. The other question I was going to ask, I don't really know how it works, but we originally had a budget for the wharf development. It's something like 1.2 million. And I think we're up to about 700,000. And so there was money there originally, whether it's been reallocated for some other project, but that was originally part of the wharf development project. And you know, just saying that we have to have a business plan to show that the endowment fund is going to be used to generate money. You could say, is the car park that? And we have a health and safety problem that we're going to shelve. And so I think we really need to look at it seriously.
Did you have a comment on that, Mr. Rendell, about the original budget of the Homes Wharf upgrade?
Yeah, so I suppose irrespective of original decisions of council's investment within all of its assets, council does reconsider those whenever it completes a long-term plan process. This particular year of the long-term plan, it was a difficult one, frankly, to try to right-size the investment that council's willing to make in community services, whilst also trying to keep rates increases and debt borrowing to a minimum. So there were some elements that just dropped off in terms of continued investment, purely because there was trying to minimise rates increases and debt increases. So what I'd say is that the investment was there historically. There was a decision by council at a previous time to invest in that community facility. However, this council reprioritised that based upon what it felt was most appropriate.
Any other speakers?
Yeah, just a question along following similar principles to, you know, wanting to see what sort of yield the investment would attract. I'd be keen to understand similar in and around the enabling power to the commercial operators, because I think that would help aid decision making around whether this is not only ticking the box for health and safety, but it's also a productive decision that generates a yield, and then therefore a justification for doing it on an economic basis.
Well, I can't see you online there, Mayor Kircher, but do you have anything to add? Is he still with us?
Yeah, I think the things like using the endowment fund, I'm interested to know actually how much is in it, because I understood the last time we saw it, there was, I thought, quite a number of hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in there. And if there's not that, I would like to know where it's gone. Just on the likes of the car park, that's the use of that was suggested because it would create value. It would create those opportunities for sites to be made or delineated and made more available. And the suggestion also that I made that any sale of those could, some of that could go back to repaying into the fund as well. So it's as far as the wharf one, we're talking about a very large amount of money to get power through there. It won't be a commercial opportunity for us. It'll cost us anything we might get back from fishermen and so on. I don't think is ever going to repay that full amount. But and people have a lot of good ideas about the sheds and what they could be used for, but the practicalities of our weather and the access to that and so on, I think would suggest that they may not be as commercially viable as some might think. So anyway, that's just a bit of my thoughts on that one. No easy answers. Thank you.
Mr. Cook. And then
Just to clarify, Mayor Kircher, the figure that you indicated is approximately what my colleague did indicate prior to the meeting. So it's not in the millions, but it is in the hundreds of thousands, is the understanding I got.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion, or are you wanting to? Oh, no, okay, Kevin.
So where do we go from here? Are we going to explore it more, or are we going to put forward that we do the minimum? Where are we going?
You're welcome to make a recommendation to council if you'd like. If you,
I recommend that we put forward that we do minimum.
would you? Yeah, I can take that as a motion. Would you prefer that just the whole paper goes as one with all the options explored with the other information that people were curious about? Or
What I'd like to put forward is that we do the minimum. I want to move that we do the minimum.
okay, move. Do I have a seconder for that? Dr. Agnew. So, Mr. Rendell.
Sorry, in terms of the motion that's being put forward, the minimum would be to do nothing. So you might want to refine the motion so that we fully articulate what it is that we're requesting. Yep, yep.
I'd like to put forward we do minimum as listed.
Mr. Cook.
Yeah, just commenting on that, I'd like the opportunity for, if that is the direction of travel, that the officers engage with the harbour master to understand what the navigational requirements are, to make sure at least we mitigate that risk in the work that we undertake.
Mayor Kircher.
Yeah, I don't understand what minimum means either. Are we talking about lighting for safety purposes? Because I think we need to be clear. Yeah, I think the motion needs to be something along the lines that all options for providing lighting to meet health and safety requirements are undertaken, and a report taken to council would probably fix that. As far as here's all the options of how we can deliver it. Get a decision from council would be my suggestion.
Yes. Enjoy. Happy to, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Jeremy. From my understanding as a electrician, what do minimum means is to get the power out to the sheds with a transformer and lighting, so there's power ready to go. That's what the do minimum, as I read it, including the connection of the street lighting.
Mr. Rendell, do you have a comment on that?
Yep, so the do minimum option as described would be to install ducting for future services, install high voltage power supply, and install street lighting to the Holmes Wharf.
Just one question for Josh. Do we have the lights already?
I would have to confirm that. My apologies. We've invested some funds in purchase of a number of streetlights in the area that haven't yet been installed. I'd have to check whether some of those were set aside for Holmes Wharf or they were for other locations.
Okay, so we've got the motion on the table that the recommendation to do minimum option, seeing the installation of the ducting for future services, high voltage power supply, the street lighting, as well as the minimum of health and safety investigated through ORC Harbour Master. Do we have a seconder for that? Sorry, are you seconded already? I'll put the motion to the floor. All those in, yes? I was just asking that. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just putting
Okay.
out the Philippines.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Cool. No, I just wanted to express my support for this. Although I would also ask that, like, the information that Councillor Blackler raised earlier too is provided when it becomes before council to have a discussion about. I think the health and safety concerns deserve our attention, and if there's opportunities to have something in place for potential commercialisation in the future, then that's a positive as well. So I would appreciate more information on this before the full council.
Any other speakers for or against? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Mr. Berkeley.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, and along the lines of Councillor Ryan's comments just then, if I may put forward an additional motion that would read that the Harbour Area Sub-Committee recommends to Council that consideration of this matter, recommends to officers that consideration of this matter going to Council will canvass achievement of health and safety matters and any potential what would it be, economic what am I trying to say here, any potential revenue generating opportunities. That's it.
All those in favour of that? Is it? Sorry, Mr. Cook.
Could I just make sure we've got some clarification around what's expected here, because we currently don't have any money. We're looking at doing the minimum for the safety point of view, but I'm concerned that the scope seems to be creeping, and will take a reasonable amount of officers' time because it's not already in the long-term plan. I took the indication that this perhaps isn't necessarily the priority work of council, that it hasn't had any budget set aside for it in the long-term plan. So I'm just conscious of which take officers away from work that is funded and budgeted to do feasibility work on work that's not funded and budgeted.
Mr. Kelger.
Be very careful about making it too complicated. The price will double and triple and quadruple. So just keep it simple. Get back to where you started. Get the power out there. Get some lighting for health and safety. If you widen the scope, you'll be $1 million.
Okay, so did you want to comment on that, everyone?
Well, if I could speak to the motion, I guess I'm not trying to make this scenario more complicated. I'm trying to ensure that councillors have in front of them relevant information to make good sound decisions, which includes economic analysis and ensuring that the solution will satisfactorily meet the concerns that have been flagged by the harbour master, and I guess to the point around funding of the matter, I think it's not a matter that the Harbour Area Committee has any real control over as such. So we're just simply putting a recommendation to council, and it's probably for council to make a decision around how that be funded if they choose to follow the recommendations of the subcommittee.
Mayor Kircher.
Can I just have the wording of the motion again, please? So,
The amended one or the first one?
I don't know, whatever Councillor Blackler said.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Blackler moved, seconded by councillor Ryan, that the Harbour Area Subcommittee recommends to officers that consideration of this matter going to council will canvass achievement of health and safety matters and any potential revenue generating opportunities.
Okay. Just very quickly, I think that second part, I mean, you could put someone out there selling ice blocks. I think it's going to generate revenue. It doesn't, there's no economic analysis as to whether it's going to have a return on the investment itself. I think the investment is quite high. And any revenue isn't going to actually match that. It'd be very difficult to do that, but it is a case if we're going to put the ducting out there, if that's the decision that council makes, then the power will be there, and then whatever opportunities come along for the use of the sheds, then that will be almost additional to the to the initial purpose of health and safety and amenity. Thank you.
I'll put the motion for all those in favour. Against? That's carried. Moving on to the gantry crane and relocation, the scales relocation. Do you have any commentary around that? I know, Ms. Clark, you've had your pieces. Anyone else have any questions or? Ms. Clark?
There was one thing that I actually forgot, if I could mention it now, just about the red sheds. Just looking at the photograph, the one shed, obviously that's not been repaired or painted. Can that happen? It looks like the ugly duckling sitting there now with the other sheds. So, and I know there's issues with Oamaru Steam and Rail, but I have spoken to them and they would be very happy for it to be tidied up and repaired.
I probably couldn't answer that one, but Mr. Rendell, is it an old photo or is it?
No, sorry, that is a new photo. As you'll see in the background of that particular photo, there was a number of red sheds that were improved in terms of weather tightness, paint, etc. It was again that situation where there wasn't sufficient budget to be able to undertake repairs on all of the buildings. Some of those buildings have been inhabited for a very long period of time. Maintenance was expected to be undertaken by those community groups involved in those sheds. In many cases, we've gone ahead and undertaken maintenance, but we just didn't have enough budget to complete all of the works. It's again an investment issue. Through the long-term plan, we considered investment, and we didn't have enough investment to go around to all of the initiative that were proposed.
So I see there's 50,000 of funding set aside. Could that 50,000 be used for those smaller projects to just be completed?
The $50,000 that is set aside is in the 2031/32 financial year. So at the moment, that funding set aside for those projects to be dealt with in 2031/32. If we were to be doing anything earlier than that, there'd have to be an approval to bring funding forward, which would be a situation where we go and borrow up more money earlier rather than later.
Is there any other questions relating to any other projects on the memorandum? If not, would we be able to get someone to move that the Harbour Area Subcommittee receives and notes the information? Move Councillor Blackler, second Councillor Ryan. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. And if I just take you back to meeting of the confirmation of the previous meeting minutes. Any questions around those, or is somebody happy to move them as true and correct? Moved, Mr. Clark, seconded. Mr. Coucher, thank you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Yeah, I'll just thank everybody again for the last meeting of the triennium, for the contributions you've all made to the betterment of the Harbour area, staff, their time, and stakeholders and everyone that's been involved. It's an exciting future, and thanks for your opportunity today, and declare the meeting closed.